Hello, everyone. I'm gonna warn you. This is gonna be kind of long intro because I'm gonna be explaining quite a bit of stuff before I actually start. Um, First, I'm gonna give an overall to clarify what this tutorial is for. This tutorial is for people trying to get Halo Infinite assets specifically from the Halo archive. If you don't know what that is, it's a Discord server where a bunch of different people. There's some main guys in there, but they set up they rip stuff from the Halo games and set it all up in Blender. Really nice setups for most part. I have some personal preferences that I don't agree with, but they're really good assets. They're put together really well. They're from Halo. That's the base. So our goal today is to get this into VRChat. That's our goal. I'm not actually going to be uploading it to VRChat. I'm just trying to get it into Unity, which is what you use for VRChat if you don't know. So, now on to the explanation. This is not my first tutorial, but also is the first tutorial I've done in quite a long time, so forgive me if I'm stuttery if you're even listening to this. There's a timestamp. Skip to the timestamp if you don't want to hear all this. I'm a little slow sometimes about thinking about stuff, so you're going to hear me saying a lot. I have taught quite a few people to do this method. The method we are currently going to be doing is going to use a shader called Rero. It's just, you can just Google Rero Unity shader and you should be able to find it. If not, I should have something in the description for it. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be atlasing as well. So what atlasing is we have a lot of materials right now. Each of these parts is kind of its own material. So we're going to be so in Halo Infinite, there's cores. We're going to be getting the base of this core into one 4K texture. And then the helmet we're going to leave as either a 1K or a 2K. I'm going to bake it as a 2K. You can crunch it down. And then we're going to put stuff like knee pads, gloves, and shoulder pads onto their own 2K texture. Well, that's going to significantly improve our performance. So Halo Infinite works very well with a bunch of small materials with low textures. Unity likes less materials. Sometimes even a higher texture memory can be more beneficial than having a lot of materials from what I've seen. I'm going to clarify that's not based on any technical stuff. So we have the Mark V right now. We're going to start getting into this. So our first part is going to be going into the materials. By the way, customize this to your heart's content before you do. So, let's start out with some customization. Let me show you my way for customization. You can do this however you want. I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. So, right here we have the colors. So the reason we have 3 colors, for those of you who don't know, is Halo Infinite has something called gradients, these textures. And what these do is kind of have like 3 different parts of the color. So if you see I darken this, part of the texture will darken this one, it'll darken. To undo that, I'm just using Control-Z for those of you who do not know. But this is how I customize the colors. These are a whole different thing. If you want to get into those, I'm not going to cover those in this tutorial, but this is really simple. Metallic for zone 1 makes zone 1 metallic. Roughness for zone 1 scratch makes scratches. Can mess with all of that before. None of that's going to matter. What does matter is we're going to want to turn ambient occlusion off to 0 on all these. On all these different materials. And the reason I'm doing that is you can see it does change it quite a lot. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to get that out in a different way. We're not going to need that in the base textures or anything. I am kind of going to be glossing over some of the terminology just because I kind of want to get just straight into this, but we're just going to turn this off for all these. You know what? Since we're going to be moving around a lot too, I'm going to make sure all of these are kind of more in the same area because they're not right now. That's the thing where I said some of my personal preferences aren't always what the people in the archive prefer. Just a little OCD thing, a little cleanup. Makes our life easier. I recommend doing it, but you don't have to. Yeah, we'll turn off the occlusion while we're there. I apologize for this being a little long, but who knows, maybe you're just following along with me as I'm doing this. That's what I would hope. Trust me, this will make it easier in a minute, because we're going to be going through these a lot later on. I'm trying to make this tutorial uncut so that you can see every single thing I'm doing. I know a lot of people just went straight to the point, but it's kind of hard to get straight to the point with this, because I also want to inform you guys of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Okay, I think I have... You know what? There's an easier way of going through these. There we go. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. Okay, so make sure these are all in their right spots. We will definitely not be covering weight painting. I'm gonna say that right now. I might even cut all this. Ooh, and I moved it. Okay, so now I have all of these. Oh, forgot that one. All of those are repositioned to be in a nice place. So now I'm just gonna go through, make sure all the ambient occlusion is off. They might not have... So previously in the Halo archive, it might not be this way, but I like to turn it off. No, forget what I'm saying, because we do want it off. I was gonna say we might not have to turn it off, but no, we want this off. Ambient occlusion is great for if you're... That was an accident. It's just some weird... Sorry. You want ambient occlusion off, because we are doing baking. We are not rendering these. We're not rendering this particular model. We are atlasing and baking it. Which means we do not want ambient occlusion to be baked in, because we're going to let Unity take care of the processing for the ambient occlusion with the way we're doing this. I will show the Unity setup. I will not show the Unity upload process. Okay, so now we have all of the ambient occlusion off. Great. Now we're going to move on to how I do color customization. The way I like to do it is I like to go Control A, Shift A. We go Shift A, click search, and then we go RGB, and then we select that RGB. This is just a node that gives us a color. Then I will duplicate it to give us free. Then I'll select it all, go Control G. Then what I'll do is I'll plug that in there, there, and there. And I'll go out, and I'm going to make this a dark green, so I'll just name this node green. So now what I'll do is I will just plug it in here and make these line up with the zones. So now this node is controlling it, and the reason we want that is if we have just a group controlling it, I can select this, do Control C, go under a different part, do Control V, and then plug it in again. And now what happens is if I go into the node and try and darken something, it'll darken across everything. And that's really helpful for just changing the whole base color. And I've had files where I've just used that for everything. It's very helpful, but I'm not going to use it right now because I'm pretty happy with this current green. So, customization, not going to talk about it anymore. So now, let's say you have all your customization set up, and we're ready to bake it out. So now, before we bake it, there's a step we have to do since we are going to be atlasing. I have not taken a look at these UV maps yet, but what we're going to do right now is we are going to just do any attachments like that aren't on the base core and hide those. So like shoulder pads, we're going to hide those. Gloves, going to hide those. Knee pads, going to hide those. And then helmet, visor. Looks like these are an attachment as well, so we'll hide those. But now what we have is we have like the torso, the forearms, the stuff that doesn't change between customization. This is an armored kit in the game, so it doesn't change to begin with, but it's still at its core an armor core. If I say armored core instead of armor core, I apologize. I've been playing a lot of Armored Core 6, so that's fair. We also want the neck for this. So now we have that. Now let me just go over Discord because there's a little thing that I like to use, but I have misplaced it recently. So, okay, we're back. I found it. So this right here is the guide I like to use for the base core. I have an overlay guide on like what's what, just to help me out here. This is the I think it's called the Mirage Core is what this one was for, but this is my basic guide of how I atlas. So I'm gonna put this on my secondary monitor. I'm gonna put it up there for you guys to screenshot if you want to have it somewhere else. I have 2 monitors, so I'm gonna keep it on my second monitor. Hopefully you got that, because now we're moving on. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure all these have the same. You see this little camera here and how these ones are hidden? We want to make sure this one that is shown is named exactly the same on all of these, because if it is not, we will lose that data, because we are about to combine all these. Okay, we're good. It's all the same. So now we're going to do A, select the torso, and then we're going to right-click and hit Join. So now this is all just one object. Now we're going to hit this little plus icon, and we're going to name this UV map Bake. So this is where we're going to put our Atlas UV map. So if we go under UV editing and we go A, currently it's a mess. That's to be expected. Don't worry about that. What you do want to worry about is everything being on this texture space right here. If it's not, it's usually you just have to move it back in and everything's cool. Now what we're gonna do is our cursor here, this little guy, this little Candy King guy, I can't zoom in on him anymore. There, this guy right here, that guy's not where he's supposed to be. So we're gonna right click and we're gonna go snap and we're gonna do cursor to origin. That's guy, we call him our cursor. And then, so now that he's at the origin, that's gonna help us. We're gonna make sure that this little pivot guy up here is set to 2D cursor. Bounding up here is what's normally sent to, but we want it set to here for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under our material tab and we're going to find our torso. We're going to hit select down here. And now we have selected our torso, but now we see the cod piece is it's on a different material. That's typical for these assets. So we're going to find where that is and hit select on that too, because that's a part of the same part. Now we're going to go under UV map, click A, hit S, and then we're going to hit 0.5. And by point, I mean period on your keyboard. So now that's down there. Make sure you have bake selected, because otherwise you will mess up the primary thing, UV 0, and then here, I'll show you. If I hit, that's what it will look like if you mess it up. So make sure you're editing the bake UV and not the main UV. So now we have that atlas. So now we're going to deselect everything. And I'm going to go to Phi. I'm going to hit select. Now here's where we get a little weird. You can see it's kind of stretched out. That's okay. That's how these assets are. We're going to hit A. And then we're going to hit, let me remind myself, we're going to hit S, and then we're going to hit Y, and then 0.5. 0.5. Hit enter, and we're gonna hit S again, and then 0.5. So now it's fixed to be proper and everything. Now we're gonna do G, and then we're gonna hit 0.5, and now the thigh is where it's gonna be. So now we've atlased the thighs and the chest. Well, chest, torso, whatever. So now we'll do the shin. We're gonna do the same thing as we did for the thigh. So now we're gonna go to the shin. Sorry about that cut there. I messed up a bunch of times doing the same thing wrong. So now we're gonna make sure that's all selected. And then we're gonna do S, Y, 0.5, enter, S, 0.5, enter. And then for this one, we're going to do G. And we're gonna hit, I forgot where we're gonna move it to. So here's what we're doing. So this is a distance of 1 for Blender, this whole edge. We're combining it. So these are 0.5 in length, and then they're 0.25 in height. So what we're doing is, you can also use this little guy to help you. So we're going to use him to help us put this guy in the right place. This texture's messing with me, so I'm just going to go under here and pick a square texture. So now we have a square texture, which makes me happy, because it's easier to work with. So we put the thighs right here, so we want to put this above the thighs, right up there. And then that's not accurate. That's not where we want it. It's around where we want it, but now we need to clean it up. So these exact numbers are what you're going to want, because otherwise things are going to get a little wonky. So we're going to put in 0.25, and then 0.5 up there. So now we have that. That's good. Now we can select off that. And it looks like next we have the boots. So we're going to find the boots. Hit those. Hit A. Scale those down to 0.5. This is just another way of doing it. Sometimes it works better. And then we're going to hit this to 0.5. Anything? So here's how you should scale it. When you go under the shader, if the texture is wide like this, then that means when we're making it as a square, we have to correct shape, which is usually, if I undo, it's usually, oh, I'm not doing that right. Usually it's like half what it's supposed to be. I can't figure it out right now, but whatever. So this guy we're gonna put at 0.5, 0.5. Little tip, if you select this guy while you're holding shift, you can drag up and select both of them and they're on at the same time. Hopefully it's clear on those instructions, if not, just enter them on their own. Sorry I'm a little bit chaotic, it's just I do this so much that I'm trying not to gloss over anything, but I'm also trying to be fast. Like I said, this is my first time doing this type of tutorial, so now we're at the upper arm. We're going to do the same scaling thing, 0.25, 0.5. We're going to move this guy up to 0.5. Then we're going to do our forearms right here. We're going to do the exact same thing. 0.5, 0.25, my bad, 0.5. There we go. And then we're going to move this guy all the way up to 0.75. So now we have two things left. We have the knee pads and we have the neck. So we're going to find the neck, select that guy, select all of those UV, and then we're going to scale this one to just 0.25 on both of them. And we're going to move him all the way up to 0.75. Now he's in the corner. And last but not least, the knee. This knee's a little weird. This knee is different than some of the others. It looks like it's still square though, so we don't have to worry. That's the wrong tab. So we're going to scale him down to 0.25 as well. By the way, Z does not matter for this, the Z-axis, because it's a 2D thing. There is no Z-axis, so it doesn't matter if you put anything in there. We're going to move this guy to 0.75 on the Y, and 0.5 on the X. So now, if we hit A under here, you can see all of our UV maps fit nicely into this one texture. This one has a few gaps. I'm not going to worry about it for this tutorial. This is just the easiest, simplest way to do it. You could scale these up to get a little bit resolution or whatever, but I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going to hit tab and we're out of it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back under our shader tab, and it doesn't matter which material we have selected for this, because they should all be using this same group, this same shader group. So we're going to hit this little button right here. Some people don't know this is a button. These little guys up here, this is a button. That takes us into this whole mess. It might be a little overwhelming, but don't worry, we're only using a part of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in to this guy right here, the principal BSDF. And we're going to do metallic, and we're going to hold shift, right click, and drag over it. And then we're going to do the same thing for roughness. So what we just did is made a little point where we can grab these guys. That's going to make our life easier. So then we're going to kind of go over here. We're going to do Shift A, and we're going to hit search and go combine. And we're going to hit combine color. Make sure this is set to RGB for what we're doing. And now, what we're going to be doing here, I'm going to explain for a bit. So what we're about to make is called an ORM texture. What ORMs are is it is 3 channels of data turned into RGB channels. And this is the same thing that most Unreal Engine games use nowadays. It's my favorite way of doing stuff, and it's maybe one of the most optimized. I'm not sure. But it works very well with my workflow, and that's how I prefer to do it. And usually my texture memory is pretty good. So I'd say it works well enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little guy and drag out. And we're going to put metallic in the blue. Then we're going to put roughness into green. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find this little dude. So this guy, oh, that's even, oh no, that's a different thing. Ignore that. So this little guy, what it is the AGS map. So what an AGS map is ambient occlusion, scratch, and then grunge. So that's what Halo Infinite uses for its customization stuff. It's what it uses. But what we just need to worry about this red channel. So we're going to take this red guy, and we're going to go all the way back over to where we put our combined color node, and we're going to plug in to red. And then we're going to take this guy, and we're going to plug him in the BSDF. Now, what you're about to see looks freaky, but it's what we want. This looks correct. So what this is we have, for red, we have the ambient occlusion. For green, we have a roughness. It'll take a second to load because it's Eevee. And then we have the metallic. So we have all those combined. That's what we want. So now we're going to go out of that, and we are going to hit A, search, image texture, and then we're going to hit new. So under here, we want to make sure alpha is disabled. I don't think it'll mess with anything, but it's not something we're using, so we don't want it. Then we're going to set these to ×4 to get a 4K, and then we're going to name it. I have a fairly technical way of naming things, so I'm going to call this Mark 5 underscore. I'm just going to call it that for now. Not very technical this time. Actually, you know what? I forgot. So we actually want to specify what this texture is going to be for. So I like to do base, because this is our base core. This is something we don't change for this core. And then we're going to leave an extra underscore at the end, and then hit OK. Now what we're going to do is make sure this is selected. We're going to hit Control C, and then we're going to go under every material under this combined place. Make sure it's selected. And we're just going to put this under all of these. Make sure it is selected under each material. That will cause issues if it is not. Because then it just won't process that material, or it will override something else. It's a whole thing. So make sure that the texture you are going to be baking to is selected under every material under the part you are baking to. Okay, so that's all done. It's selected under each little thing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go under Slow Render tab. Oh, okay, so we don't want that. We don't want Eevee. So we're going to select this and go under Cycles. You don't actually have to go under Cycles to do this, because Cycles is just how Blender bakes things. Eevee can't bake, but Cycles can. So before we do this, I would like to specify something. Before we get into this, I'm going to show you a way to get a significant performance boost. Sometimes you won't. It depends on your hardware, to be honest, but what we're going to do is we're going to go under Edit, Preferences, and then we're going to go under System. And now it might be set to none if you haven't set this up. So this is where it might be. So now what we're going to talk about is a little more technical, but you can research what these rendering devices are and what's best for your system. But if you have an NVIDIA GPU, you're going to want OpticX. And you're going to want to make sure both your GPU and your CPU are selected, because that will use the power of your GPU and the power of your CPU. We want to use both. We want to get the most out of our computer as we can, even if it's a lower computer. If you don't have a lot of good specs, we want the most we can get out of it for this. So once that's all set up, you can just hit X. It saves. Make sure it's on GPU compute. And then under here, under the render tab, we want to turn that off. And we're just going to set the samples to 5. Because we're baking. We are not rendering. We are baking. But it will use the render settings for baking. Denoise can be off too, just for a performance boost. Then we're going to go under the baking tab. And we don't want it under combined. We want to go to emit. Then we want, for this ORM texture, we're going to want to set our texture to non-color. And then we are going to just hit bake. It will bake it for a second. And then we have this guy pop up. This guy's what we want. This is our Atlas texture right here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to hit on this drop down. We're going to go under image. Oh, image, save as. So now we're under my Mark V files. You can see my little guide here. So now we're going to select under here, go under here, and we're going to specify this as an ORM texture. Then we're going to want to do compression to 100%. It's not going to lose quality because we're going to compress it in Unity as anyways. So it's just to get your texture memory down even more, because texture memory is a big thing with VRChat. So then we're just going to hit save image as. It's going to take a minute. And if you click too much and it says not responding, just let it process. It's 4K, so it might take a minute. Don't worry, your Blender hasn't crashed unless it takes over like 10 minutes. But it should be not very long. So now we're going to go back under this guy. And we're going to take this guy right here. And we're going to put him where our ORM was outputting. Now what we have is just the base color. And here's why it was important that we disabled the ambient occlusion earlier. If I turn that back on, you can see now it's in the base color. But we have our ambient occlusion in our ORM texture. So we don't need it in our base color. So now that we have that, we're going to make sure this is selected again. And we're going to switch it back to RGB. Then we are going to hit bake again. It's going to take another second. Now we have our color. Great. Now we're going to save this. Instead of ORM this time, we're going to do C for color. That's how I like to do it. That's how I organize. Set compression to 100% again and hit save. Give it a second. Once again, it's 4K, so it might take a minute. We're good. Okay, now we need our normal map. So for our normal map, we're going to plug this guy, the normal guy, back in. Right there. Now it's back to its normal thing. Now this next part is pretty important. But first we need to set this back to non-color because it's a normal map. So we also don't bake normal maps on emit. We want to go to just normal for that. Okay. Now for the important part. If we hit bake right now, don't do this yourself. I'm just going to show you why we need to do the next step. So it's going to bake it. And you can see we get weird stuff like this. We do not want that. We also are getting weird edges like right here and all here. And why that is currently our geometry is being shaded really smooth. And Blender's processing that smoothed version of it into the texture. And we don't want that. So what we want to do is go under modifiers. And we're going to add a new modifier. So we're going to go under modifiers, and then we're just going to hit E. That'll add what we need. And then we want to set this to 0%. So what this is doing, it looks broken, but this is what we want. So what this is doing is it is splitting each individual face as its own thing. And it's like magic, because now if we hit bake under our normal map again, this is when you yourself want to hit bake after adding that split edge node. Give it a second. Now all that weird stuff is gone. This is what we want. We don't want that other one. So now that that's processed, we're going to hit save as, and we're going to label this one in. Oh, I got rid of that. We're going to label this one in for normal map because it's a normal map. Compression 100%. And this one will take longer. Normal maps always take longer to process on export, import, compression, anything. Just because they're pretty advanced data. Okay, we're done with that, and I realized something. So, I forgot to do a step. You can see this little icon right here is on every texture. We're going to go under File, External Data. Make sure this is off. We do not want this. This is something that we do not want anymore. What we want to, now that that's off, we want to hit Unpack Resources. And we're just going to hit Use Current Directory when necessary. That usually works. So now if we go under the file that our thing was under, where did I put it? We can just go under. So now we can see all our textures are under this file. They're all nice in here. And now they're no longer in the blend file. The reason we don't want them in the blend file is kind of just preference. You don't have to. It doesn't really matter. It's just my preference not to have them in there. So now what we're going to do, we're done with this guy. So we're going to go under modifiers and we're just going to disable that edge split. So now what we want to do is we're going to hide that guy and we are going to enable all these little guys, not the visor or the helmet. We want these guys. Now what we want to do is go under all these and combine them once again. If they have the same normal map, not normal map, UV map. We want to make sure they have the same UV map. If they don't, they won't combine correctly, and that creates issues, as in you won't have any UV maps anymore. So now we're gonna hit plus. We're gonna go bake. Then we're gonna go under UV maps again. So now we need to atlas this. We're going to start. I don't have a guide for this because it's always different depending on what attachments you have. This is something that if you're not using, if you have a lot of like helmet attachments and extra stuff, it's a whole thing. But basically, I'm going to go over what we're doing here. We are going to want the glove to be scaled to, you should know what I'm doing at this point because we did a bunch. we want it to be 0.5. We want this to be quite a bit of resolution, because in VR, our hand resolution is very noticeable. We don't want it to be too small. You can, if you don't care about that. You could have it as small as you want. I prefer it bigger because I prefer a little bit more texture on my hands. So we want that to be like our torso was. Then we're going to take a look at what the textures for these guys look like. Okay, they're squares. Are they all squares? That's a weird square. Yeah, these look like they're all squares. So part of the issue with these all being squares is the pouches. We have 5 textures instead of 4. Usually it's easier when we only have 4. This guy, we're going to scale down to 5. Move them up. 0.5. This is the shoulder pads. Then we're going to take... Oh no, that was the knee pads. My bad. But we do want to do the same thing for shoulder pads. Scale those down. 0.5. Put that guy in the corner. And it looks like I was mistaken. It looks like we do only have... Oh. I messed that up. 0.5. There we go. Okay, so we do only have 4 textures. Okay, we're good. That's actually really good. So now we can fit all of these guys into just one texture. So they're all in one texture now. They're all happy together. So now we're going to create another image texture. Yay! Only this one we want set to 2K. And we're going to name this one the same as our other for this part, mark 5 underscore. And now we're doing like attachments and gloves and stuff. So I just call it that, attach. It might not be spelled correctly, but that's how I do it. Leave another space at the end. And that's good. Copy that. Put it on each one. Make sure it's selected. I need to take a quick drink. Hopefully that wasn't too uncomfortably audible. It's hot. I live in a desert, so excuse me for taking big drinks. So now we're going to look under our shader, and we already have this guy. We already have that set up because it uses the same group. So we're just gonna plug that guy back in to the output, and we're gonna set this to non-color. Make sure it's selected. Go under this guy, and we're gonna switch it from normal to emit. And a little tip for Blender, under any drop down like this, if I hit C, it'll go combined. If I hit A, it goes ambient occlusion. If you hit on your keyboard when you have one of these drop downs off, whatever letter you hit, it'll select the first one that has that letter at the beginning. So you can do E for emit, N for normal. Very helpful. Very cool tool. Now that that's all selected and ready, hit the bake. And now we have that. We're going to go image, save as, and then we're going to call this ORM, compression 100%. And now we let it save. We go back under here, and we're going to take this guy again. Now we have our color again, so we're going to set this back to RGB. Bake. That's good. Now we go under image, save as, and we're going to hit this as C. Save as. So we'll have the same stuff over and over, but now we go under non-color because we're about to do normal. Go under here, hit N. Then under here, hit E. 0. Go back under here. Do that as a render. And we're going to select that again. Then bake. Let it bake out the normal map. Image. Save as. In Compress it all the way. And go back under here, get rid of that little guy, and we're done with the attach. Now we have the helmet and visor. This one is the easiest one. We're just combined helmet and visor. And we are still going to want to add a bake UV, even though we don't have to do any editing to it, because the helmet's going to be its own thing. And if we go under our UV editing, you can see for Halo Infinite visors and their helmet all line up nicely. They work well. So then we're going to do the same image, create image, texture stuff. This one I'm going to set to 2K. I like to have a little bit more detailed helmets. So we're going to do mark 5 underscore helmet underscore. Okay, we got that. Right now it is under our helmet though, so we need to select this, click C, Control C, then Control V it here, select it, and it's under here. Now we go under here, put this guy out. Now that aggressive purple is obviously because the visor is much more metallic than everything else, so it doesn't really matter, but we're gonna go under here again and hit E. Almost forgot to set that to non-color. Set that to non-color. Bake it. Let it process. Then go under here. Image save as ORM. Impression 100%. Wait on that. We're good. Now we're gonna go under here. Get our color texture, sRGB, select it again, bake. Very repetitive, but that's all of working with 3D. Save as, call it C. If I'm going too fast, just slow the video down. Okay, now we just plop that in again, then go non-color. Normal. Let it bake out. Ooh, I forgot to do the edge split. Now you can see why we need it, because it looks wrong, and if it looks wrong, then it's gonna work wrong. In this case. There we go. So much better, so much cleaner. Then N. So one thing that I just realized, I'm going to get rid of that real quick, is I forgot about our emission on here. We have lights on the Mark V. So for that, we are not going to want... So I'm going to test something here. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to try taking the emission color, emission, and putting out. Yeah, so that didn't work. So what we want is to do something special. We're going to hit Shift A, search, mix, and then we're going to do mix color. And then we are going to take this guy, emission strength. That's not what, there we go. And we're going to put that into the factor. We're going to clamp our result. And then we are going to plug emission into the top one, I believe. No, put that out there. Okay, so we actually want that to be in B. Yeah, there we go. Then we set that to black, and now we have our emission. So for this, we want this to be under emit. That's good. I want this to be under sRGB, bake. Now we have our emission. We're going to go under image, save, and we're going to call it E. And we actually, I don't think we have to do it. Okay, we do have to do it for this guy. This because of that little thing right there. So we're just gonna set that to color, bake. Need all our missions. Save as. Then we need to do that one more time for the torso, because we have emissions on there. Set to RGB and bake. It takes a little longer because it's 4K. Okay, now we have that image. Save as. E. Okay. All of our textures are baked out. So we do have another step. So now that we have done all that, we are going to hit save. If you have not already, I have not. I did that all without saving. And part of it is Blender has an autosave feature, so I don't worry about it too much, but do be saving as much as you think so. And save right before you're going to do something that could be incredibly stupid, like mess up your whole model stupid. Saving again. So now I have to check something about the rig. So this portion I'm re-recording because it was kind of messy on the first recording I did. But basically, for the rig, I know this is a completely different model. It's still going to be that. It's still going to work. So I have my rig selected. I'm going to go under pose mode. Then I'm going to go under this little, what do I want to go under? I'll go under this. And then anything with like a dot here, I want to have shift selected. Make sure all that. And then I want to right click, clear user transforms. Make sure everything's selected again. Then I want to go under pose and go under constraints and go clear pose constraints. That's going to be the same thing for the rest of the tutorial. I just had to add this in. So I'm going to just clear those constraints and hope everything works out. We're going to see what happens here. So now what we want to do is we saved previously. So there are two options of what you can do here. You can do this all in one sitting without saving, or we can do file, and then we can do save as, and then we can call it bake. So we know this is the baked one. So now we have a Blender file of the baked version with all the UVs. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all the other UV maps except the one we titled bake. We're going to do that for all our parts. Because VRChat will not like us having multiple UV maps, because it only... There's ways you can fix it, but it's just easier to only have the one UV map. So now we should have our bake UV map on all these parts. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go under here and clear all our materials for each part. Do not combine them yet, just clear their materials. And now we are going to name them correspondingly to our textures. So this is the attach. Name that, create a new material, call it attach. Do the same thing for here. This is our base. Create new material, call it base. Helmet. Helmet. Okay, that's cool. Now we do A, shift, select, join. Now we just have 3 materials for our Mark 5. I'm going to rename this to Mark 5 Mesh. Then I'm going to hold Control, select Rig, and then we're going to go under File, Export, FBX, and then we want to go under Armature and hit this off. You do not want this clicked. That will make your life miserable. It will keep adding a ton of extra bones. And you do not want those extra bones. So after we're done with that, we also want that unchecked. Just because we don't want animations on it. And then we're just going to hit FBX export. So now we have everything we need for Unity in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording and go and set up my Unity stuff. Okay, so we are back. I have my Unity all open. This, I just created a fresh file for this to make things a little more organized. This already has the VRChat SDK in it, but what it does not have is the rerow shader. So it should be in the description if I did everything right. Why can the file not pop up? It's not. There we go. So we're just gonna drag the rerow package in, hit import just like if you're doing the VRChat SDK. I'm assuming you guys already know about some of that stuff. This is not a tutorial to teach you how to do every little thing for uploading to VRChat. This is teaching you how to do the Halo part of stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our file that had everything. Why did everything just minimize? Well, congratulations, you guys got a sneak peek of my desktop. Hopefully there's nothing immediately sensitive of that on there. Okay, so what we need is our textures, so we're going to select all those, and then we need to find our FBX. We're going to create a file in here, mark 5, there we go. Mark _5 probably would have been a better name. Now we're just going to drag all the stuff we baked out and exported into our Unity. That's probably going to take a bit. Oh, that was actually really fast. It might be slower for you. So I am going to show you this bit just because I have to do it anyways. I'm assuming you guys already know what I'm doing right here. I just want to see if we have any problems immediately that we want to address. Oh, there is actually something that we are going to address. Let's make sure all those fingers are on the right places. Yeah, they are. So, right off the bat, first thing I'm noticing is the chest did not assign, so we just gotta put that in there. And neither did the shoulders. So I need to put all those in there. Should be happy. Reset. Force T-pose. Okay. So, right off the bat, there's something extra we need to do. So, this is addressing issues with full body tracking. If you don't have full body tracking, whatever, you don't have to do the step. But you can see these legs are not T-posing. For some reason, Unity won't auto T-pose the legs like it does the arms. It just leaves the legs like this. So we're going to have to do that on our own. So we're going to open up Blender. We're going to go File, Import, FBX, and then now that we're going to find our file, and we're just going to import it. Now what we are going to do is go under our rig, go pose mode, and then we want to click mirror. That's this guy. We want that. And we're going to go and rotate. And what we're going to do here is we are just going to make these legs straight down, straight even. We want them to be flat and straight because that is how VRChat T-poses. Make them face forward. So if you're wondering if you should have these out or in more, it's better to have them outwards more, I've noticed, based on the way I calibrate. And for sure we know we can delete all these bigger guys. These are, so these big guys are, is they're for something not important for us. I'm not going to go for explaining all that, but we don't need them. They can go. See, rig still works fine without them. We do need to even the knees out a little bit more. There. Hopefully you're doing this step with me. Okay, that looks good. So now that we have that pose where we want it, we're gonna select our guy, and we are going to go under this modifiers tab and hit apply on the rig. Another thing we want to do, then we want to go back under the rig, go to pose mode, hit A, go under pose, go under apply as reset pose, then we're going to go back under object, and we're going to select this guy, hold shift, select our rig, do control P, armature deform. It moved, that's okay, we just go under this little tab right here and hit keep transform. All is well. New file, export, and we go under Mark 5 again. And we're just gonna override our old model because we want this guy. And I'm not gonna save because we're not gonna need that again, hopefully. And just re-import our guy. I forgot Unity did that. Normally I should override in Unity the model. So this time I'm just gonna delete both of them because I have it in a separate file. Import new guy. Go under humanoid, apply, configure avatar. Now you see that our armor is really nicely T-posed, and anyone using full body will be very happy, including me. Now we're just gonna assign those guys again because I'm not sure why they disappear. I don't think we have an upper chest. Yeah, we don't. And apply. Then we're gonna go under muscle things, make sure everything's weight painted and moving around nicely. Yep. Fingers. That's not. There we go. Yep. I'm happy with that. There's more work we could do to clean up those fingers, but I don't feel like doing it. So now we're gonna import this. I'm gonna go ahead and add a avatar descriptor. Make sure those are on. Yeah, so you see this line. A lot of Halo rigs will do this. The simple fix is you just go under the rig, and then yeah, you should correct it with the rotation. You want to correct the rotation with the rig though, not with this hierarchy. With the rig itself, where the bones are, is where you want to fix that. So now, what we can do is we can move on to the material setup. My favorite part. That's not sarcastic. I love materials. We go under the materials tab, and we're gonna hit extract, and then we're just gonna extract it to here. Then we're gonna select all of these guys. We're gonna make sure that's set to full white, and then we're gonna go under standard, rerow, and we want the metallic setup. So now there's some, I guess, house cleaning stuff you could say we're gonna do with that. We're gonna hit custom rim and move it to that side. I recommend doing that. It makes it look better. Now you do want a fallback reflection map, but I don't have one because I just created this new file, so I don't have that. So now what we want to do is scroll down and go under GPU instancing and advanced channel selection. Make sure both those are checked. Then we want to go under occlusion, set that to R. For roughness, set that to green. Go under metallic, set that to B. Set those to full. And now our materials are set up. I am going to rename those to Mark 5, just so they move to where their textures are. There we go. So now what we're going to do is the texture setup. So I'm going to show you how I set up my textures. You don't have to do it. So there are some things you will have to do in a certain way. I'll show you those and mention if you have to do it that way. But for now, this you do not have to do. I prefer doing it. I recommend doing it because it will help with performance. So we're going to select all our textures for this armor. We are going to select crunch compression. We are going to set compression to low. We are going to set this to bilinear, set this to trilinear, and turn alpha input to none. That will all help with both compression stuff while helping it look good as well. Then we're going to hit apply. That will take a bit because we are using some 4K textures. So that'll take a minute because we're doing everything at once. So we're just going to let that sit, finish its thing. It's done. Now we're going to go under the base texture and set to 4K. You do have to do this if you want it to be 4K. You can also lower these if you want them lower. By the way, this is not covering for Quest. This is strictly stuff for PC. But everything we've set up can be transferred to Quest. You're just going to have to do that your own way. I'm not going to cover that here. So now, some stuff we have to do. The normal maps. Select all the normal maps. Go under texture type, set them to normal maps. You have to do that. You have to tell Unity they are normal maps. That is pretty obvious. I'm emphasizing that a lot because one person was not doing it that way, and it was a bit of a nightmare. So now our ORM textures, we select all those. These guys have a little extra step to them compared to other textures, and it's just make sure this is clicked off for them because we exported these as non-colors. They are not color data. And if we hit apply, you will see that they will actually change if we give them a second. See, they changed, which will affect the way it looks. So now we get to do the fun part of plugging all our textures in. So we plug the color into, I can never pronounce what that is, but we plug it into the top one there. Plug the normal into the normal. And then ORM, we're going to put that in ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. Now we have an extra step because we have emissions. We should check emission, put this in here, put global illumination to none because VRChat won't use it. It can break stuff sometimes. Just say it's a none. You're not going to use it. And if you want them a little brighter, you can just pop in a 1.5. I would prefer. And now I'm going to saturate it a bit just because I want kind of to get its color back a little bit. And I'm actually going to save that color because I'm going to use it on the others. So then we're going to go into our base. We're going to set everything up the same way. This is the most satisfying part of a model. Oh, I put that under height map. Don't put that under height map. There we go. Much better. Put all those in. And then this guy. Pick our color from there. None. Plop that in. And now for the final part. Our helmet. Just pop everything in once again. I'm going to use that again. You know what? I think we are just going to upload it in this tutorial. Why not? So now we have everything set up. Almost. There's one last thing. We need to align the view. So, yeah, it's way too small. So we're going to go into our side view here. Oh, lost our thing. There he is. And we want to scale up the rig. We do not want to scale up the model from here because then sometimes it won't scale it up because of the way VRChat does stuff. That's too tall, probably. You know what was, I believe 2.1, 2.2 should be about right for this, for a Spartan 2. I might be a little wrong about that, but whatever. Oh, I need to sneeze. Hey, ah! There we go. Okay, that's over. I'm just trying to get that right. Okay, so tip for Halo. Some people like to put this out here. You don't want that. You want it to be where the eyes physically would be, even a little bit more back. That's about probably where I would want it, right there. That looks good to me. Maybe. This is kind of the hard part, but I usually kind of start to figure out where it would be. Front view is pretty helpful. Kind of look at where the eyes would be located on the helmet, and think about kind of how far back they would be based on like the neck. Don't use the chin usually. Usually that, because the chin comes out quite a bit more. So now that we have all that done, just go through the normal upload process. I'm gonna cut back to when I'm in VR. So, see you then. You know what? Actually, there's one more step, but I'm gonna have to log in to do it. So let me do that. Stop the video. Okay, you guys are gonna get some of my first reactions. I have not seen this new SDK setup. This is actually pretty cool. I actually like this. But for these all these, we're just gonna hit auto fix and let it fix those. This one will take the longest, just because of the way it is, because textures have to crunch. I haven't. I'm using an outdated SDK because I installed a fresh one for this, but I'm gonna have to update that because I like this whole thing right here. I don't use Creator Companion. I'm gonna say that to y'all right now. I don't use that. Oh, that's a big image size. Oh, you can just add an image now. That's cool. Visibility. We'll make it public. We'll call it. I'm just gonna call it the Mark 5. Why not make it more? I never add descriptions. Repeat from scene. Oh! These are all very nice settings. I'm going to just use this though. I'll add a more professional one later. But what's happening? What is happening? Oh, it's using my viewport. That's nice. Sorry to get so distracted with this, but this is all new stuff to me. There we go. So I'm just gonna spice this up a bit. So quick tip for making these look better is a little something we call HDRIs, and you can just Google whatever HDRI you want from Google and download it, and that'll help. Whatever. But I have some ones created once again by people in the archive that look pretty nice. So I'm gonna drag one of those in. I'm gonna do. That's not the right thing. There we go. I believe that's what we want for this. We're gonna let process, and then it should just work. Oh, I set the wrong thing. Is that it? Yep, that's right. 4K. Quick way to get some nice shadows, nice lighting. Make your avatar look a little better. So now we got our avatar. Oh, looks like we need to do a little bit more work for the preview. There we go. Now we got a nice looking preview. Everything looks good. Texture memory is a little high, so one thing we can do to fix that is, like I said, for the helmet, we can just put that as that. Cut the resolution in half, and then that should... Yep, put us in the green. We're good. So now we will... Actually, I'm going to build it, and then I'll see you in VRChat. Alright, so we are now in VRChat. I'm currently in Halo 3 Valhalla. I'm just going over to a better spot to change into the avatar and show it off. This is my normal avatar. Just for those of you who have not seen me on VRChat, but I think most people watching this tutorial, at least in the first views, have seen it. Alright, this looks like a nice sunny spot, so I haven't changed into it, I've only calibrated, so let's try it out. Here it is. It loaded very fast, actually. Tracking's really good because of that little T-pose we did with the legs. Hopefully, here, give you a better angle. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. Fingers all working well. Sometimes you might have to do cleanup. I didn't have to for this. It works well for my preference. So now I am going to go over the avatar's performance ratings. Okay, so now it should just be my view. These are the performance ratings. So, performance breakdown. 70 megabytes of texture memory. That's green. That's really good. Everyone should be keeping that number under 250 at the most. 250 at most. I am able to get my main avatar under, like, around 200 with weapons and everything. We have one skin mesh. That's good. That's because we combined everything. We have free material slots. That's because we atlased. And it's just green across the board for this. The only thing is polygons and texture, but it's 11 megabytes download size. And as you can see, it has pretty good texture detail. As I said, the base is 4K. So with most armor cores, you can get pretty good looking results. This is the armor I put together for Season 5. You can see this one has basically the same setup, and the texture is great resolution for only being 3 materials, one of them obviously being 4K, but it's still, this avatar is in the green as well. Pull up the camera for you. That's not the right view. There you go. So you can see it works pretty well. You get pretty good texture memory performance and pretty good texture visuals. Like you can see even on like those decal textures I added in Blender, they baked out to give really good resolution. This is a 2K helmet texture. Very good quality for what it is. So it doesn't, you don't need to go crazy with the texture memory to get a good Halo Infinite Spartan. So hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope it was good. If there's anything I missed, and I see it in the comments, I will answer that in the comments. So hopefully I covered everything. Hopefully you are able to use this tutorial. Sorry if it was too advanced. Hopefully everything's good. I'm gonna go edit it right now and upload it. So have a nice day.